Thomas Take live on YouTube, iTunes, Spreaker.com, you name it, I'm everywhere. Twitter, Instagram, Ryan_Thomas31, Thomas Take over the Twitter handle. And obviously you can follow the Thomas Take Sports Podcast Facebook page by liking the Thomas Take Sports Podcast and subscribe to the Thomas Take YouTube channel. Wow, what a day at One Bills Drive. Brandon Beane got down to business, sending Sammy Watkins, the wide receiver, to the Los Angeles Rams in exchange for E.J. Gaines. Meanwhile, the Buffalo Bills also made another trade, sending Ronald Darby to the Philadelphia Eagles in exchange for Jordan Matthews, the wide receiver, and a third-round pick. Also forgot to mention that the Bills received a second-round selection for Sammy Watkins and trading his sixth to the Rams. So the Bills essentially moved up 4 rounds in the 2018 NFL Draft to acquire E.J. Gaines, and also they moved up, actually added another third-round selection in the 2018 draft. So the Bills currently in 2018 have multiple first-round picks, 2 first-round picks, one owned by the Kansas City Chiefs, one owned by the Bills. They have 2 second-round picks, and they have 2 third-round picks, one of which was acquired in the trade with the Rams. One of the other second-round picks was acquired, obviously, or one of the second was acquired by from the Rams, and the third was acquired by the Eagles. So Buffalo Bills have options. I want to talk about my reaction to the trade. I put the news out there pretty quickly as soon as I had heard it on Facebook, Twitter, you name it, and a lot of people were saying, thank you for being legit, thank you for posting this and being legit and putting out the right information. I want to say thank you to those people that have followed the Thomas Take, that have listened to the show, that have been a key contributor in their own way, whether it's sending Thomas Take mailbag questions or just tuning in. I really appreciate it. I really enjoy this. I have a lot of fun with it. And I want to thank all the people that are involved with the Rochester Sports Network and the opportunities that they've given me over the course of the last few months. I've really enjoyed writing for the Huddle, and I'm only anticipating it to be getting a little bit better with these trades. The more moves like this, the more there is to talk about. I want to talk about my reaction to the trade, obviously. My first reaction was just, wow. I did not see it coming. I had no inside information or no inkling that the Bills were looking to do this whatsoever. My initial thought when the news was basically told to me that Sammy Watkins would not have that 5th-year option was that the Buffalo Bills would just carry on and decide to let Sammy play out this 5th year and then maybe work on a contract extension at the end of the season. I thought that they wanted Sammy Watkins for the future, thought that they wanted to let him prove his worth and then, come to an agreement. And that was not the case. Clearly, the contract situation was not going to be one that was agreeable between the Watkins agency and the Buffalo Bills. I really had high doubt that the Bills and Watkins would come to an agreement, whether or not Watkins stayed healthy or not. And people are saying it was because of the health. It was because of the health. Not necessarily. Sammy Watkins is 100% healthy, has a 100% clean bill of health. Had he not been healthy, the Rams would have not traded a second-round pick for a receiver of this caliber, and we all know that Sammy Watkins is a true talent. It's not about his talent ability. It's always been about his injuries and the injuries that he has suffered over the last few years. I don't think, though, that this trade was made based on injury. I am here to tell you that this trade was made based on the contract, and I was told that by a very, very reliable person reliable quote-unquote source, if you want to call it that, within Buffalo sports media. So I don't want to talk about the fact that the Bills made this trade because of an injury because the possibility that Sammy could get injured, you don't trade a player based on the possibility. You trade a player based on whether the fact that you think that he will be re-signable next season. And obviously, Sammy Watkins, I don't think that would have been the case. I don't think they would have given him $15 or $10 million a year or whatever had he even stayed healthy. I don't think Buffalo was in Sammy Watkins' future beyond this rookie season. If Stephon Gilmore was walking out of one Bills drive beyond his rookie deal, I don't think Sammy Watkins, I think Sammy Watkins would have definitely done the same. The marketplace for Sammy Watkins beyond this year, as Watkins is now a Los Angeles Ram, I think is definitely going to skyrocket as he becomes a wide receiver free agent, one of the younger wide receivers in the National Football League. As I said, coming off his rookie contract, a 4-year pro, make no mistake about it, he will get heavily paid by a team with deep pockets. And it could definitely, somebody brought up to me, maybe it could be the Bills. I highly doubt it. I think the Bills are looking to get a clean slate. And I don't want to say this either. I don't want to talk about, this was a pick of the previous regime. I hate when people say that. I really do, because that doesn't really mean anything. There's been new GMs that have come and gone throughout all 31 teams in the National Football League, and they keep the same players. You keep the players that are good. You trade the players that you think that you might not have the ability to get a return on, and you trade the players that you obviously don't think are up to par with your team. That wasn't the case with Sammy Watkins. It was more about the contract than anything. And in the case of Ronald Darby, a guy that really was a standout player his rookie season with the Buffalo Bills, he's just dwindled ever since. And I talked about my first impressions of camp. Ronald Darby barely stuck out to me whatsoever. So I don't know what it was. I don't know if it's scheme. I don't know what it was, but Darby just did not seem to be all there. A guy that had 2 years left on his contract of his rookie year, only was in Buffalo for 2 seasons, 2015, 2016. This was his 3rd season with the Buffalo Bills. I really, don't really know what to make of that. He was expendable, I guess, and to get Jordan Matthews and a third out of it to, to send Ronald Darby packing, that was a decent return for a corner that realistically is barely a second-string, third-string corner. So, slot corner. So, the Bills are building for the future. This year was never going to be a year that the Bills, in my eyes, were going to make the playoffs. Usually when you have a first-year head coach, that is not the case. The most recent exception to that rule was Adam Gase of the Miami Dolphins, but I wouldn't necessarily say that Miami was a playoff team, and that was proven when they played the Pittsburgh Steelers last year. We knew who was the playoff team. We knew who wasn't by the end of that game. And there were a lot of contributing factors, obviously Ryan Tannehill's injury, but you get the point. They were not a good team. I don't want the Bills to make the playoffs as the last seed. I want the Bills to make the playoffs and have the slight chance of hope that, the slightest hope that they can win a playoff game. I don't want to just make the playoffs and get beat. There's no point in that. I want to make the playoffs and win, go to another Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl. That's the goal for every team in the NFL. So, am I disappointed? No. Do I understand it? Yes. Do I think it's a bad move? Not really. I like Jordan Matthews. I like the trades for the future, the picks that they acquired. Do I like E.J. Gaines? Not really. I think he might actually be a little bit of a downgrade from Ronald Darby. He's very young. He's the same age as Darby, but in terms of sheer playmaking ability, I don't know if E.J. Gaines has that. It'll remain to be, it remains to be seen. Maybe he wasn't in the right fit in L.A. Maybe Buffalo will be better suited for him. Only time will tell. But if I were to pinpoint one real disappointment that I have with this entire situation, it's not Brandon Beane, it's not Sean McDermott, it's not Sammy Watkins. Great guy. I wish him all the luck in the world. Hope he plays very well. Hope he has a fantastic NFL career. And the same goes for Ronald Darby. There's no one to blame at One Bills Drive for any of this that took place today. No one to blame at all. But I am going to go out and say, yes, you, the listeners, the majority of the people that listen to this show are Bills fans. I'm really disappointed with the way people reacted to these moves. People saying, F the Bills. People saying the Bills, I'm never going to watch them again. This is a ridiculous trade. We only trade players that we are afraid to pay. People were so negative. The negativity towards this trade was actually pretty disturbing. And to be quite honest, as a diehard Buffalo Bills fan, that the more you go through as a Bills fan, it's kind of like, well, you're in it for the long haul. Don't say things you don't mean. Don't say, oh, F the Bills suck, I'm not going to be a Bills fan. They haven't done shit for me in 17 years. They haven't made the playoffs since I was 5 or 6 or 7. Guess what? Cry me a damn river. I don't give a shit. I don't care what your opinion is. The Bills felt the need to make a move. They had a player on their roster that they could not keep beyond next season. And pardon my French saying the S word, but really, that really agitates me and it really pisses me off. It ticks me off. It grinded my gears. It made me kind of grit my teeth a little bit, seeing all the statuses and the negativity on the Buffalo Bills. Guess what, people? This is just getting started. If you don't realize that now, you should. I'm here to tell you that this is just getting started. The Buffalo Bills are just getting started. Moving on to next season. 2017, out of the picture. We'll do the best we can. 8-8, 7-9, 6-10, 5-11. You name it. We'll go that record and we'll be completely okay with it. Why? Because we have a huge contingency of picks in 2018. We are riding on the Kansas City Chiefs having an epic failure of a season. We're riding on the Philadelphia Eagles having an epic failure of a season. We're riding on the Los Angeles Rams having a tumultuous season. So that way the second-round pick that we just acquired for the receiver that we traded 2 first-round picks for, essentially, 3 years ago, ends up being a late first-round pick in some regards. Obviously, he's not a late first, but such an early second that you could consider it to be. Hopefully the Rams finish first overall next year. That would be fantastic. First overall, meaning they finish last in the 2018 season. That would be fantastic. But there's a lot of Bills fans out there, and you know who you are. You listen to this show. You read my posts. You read what I have to say. I appreciate all of you for doing that. I love you guys, the Bills Mafia. Great fan base, great fans. We got the best fan base in the world. But it is very disappointing to see fans say F the Bills and this is bullcrap and I don't want to rebuild. This is not a rebuild. The Bills are no worse today than they were 24 hours ago. Is Jordan Matthews Sammy Watkins? No. Is E.J. Gaines Ronald Darby? No. Is Ronald Darby that great? No. Was Sammy Watkins going to be a Buffalo Bill next season? No. So it was a trade that the Buffalo Bills had to make. It was a move that really was pressing GM Brandon Beane, and he alluded to that in the press conference. Do people watch the press conferences? Do they know what is actually being said? Or are they just assuming what they want to hear based on their opinion? Watch the actual press conference that Brandon Beane, just put out, in which he said this was not about his health. There's a lot of contributing factors. Health was one of them. It's not about one thing. But if I were to pick one thing, I would lean on the fact that it was his contract. Obviously, they said no to the 5th year, on his option. They decided not to do that. They decided not to go that route. That was a telltale sign that he would not be a Buffalo Bill next year. They were going to get what they could for him. It was just like the Buffalo Sabres back in the day with Darcy Regier letting go of Brian Campbell, trading him for Steve Bernier. That way they would get a damn return. That is the honest truth, reality of this trade. You had to trade Watkins to get something in return. It's as simple as that. This is not sport. For all of you guys that think that this is sport, it's not. This is a business. Take care.